Hello everyone, I'm BaltMatrix, and today we're going to get Tough. That's with AC Toys Tough Trailer. Yeah, this has been sitting on my shelf for a while, and my good buddy Thu has already reviewed it like 2 years ago. But guess what? It only got released in 2020. Yeah, I don't know why it took AC Toys forever to get this figure out. I love the overall look of this thing. The blue and the silver just work incredibly well. That big red triangle on his chest is great, and the head sculpt is real good. But seriously, that head sculpt is really nice, and this figure feels like a Transformer. Tough Trailer is also pretty darn big. I mean, here's MP10 Prime. And for something a little more recent, here's Leader Class Studio Series Grimlock, or 86 Grimlock. Yeah, about the same size as a Studio Series Leader Class figure. The figure has a very nice, chunky aesthetic to it, and definitely feels like a figure that appeared in the 80s, but there's a lot more technology than what we had in the 80s. The overall look is good, though I can't help feeling that it should be red for some reason.
It's because this figure, or this character, was originally based off of the 1986 Super Sentai Flashman series, Titan Boy. That figure was then re-released in the Machine Robo Revenge of Kronos toy line with a slight remold.
Now, Tough Trailer's original appearance was in the Revenge of Kronos movie, Machine Robo Revenge of Kronos movie, in the 80s. And this is a rendition of that character. Now, the original show had the character with the shoulder stacks pointing forward as guns, and the original animation had him being a lot more squat and wide than the figure we have in front of us. Also, I don't know if they actually showed the gun, because there aren't that many images I've been able to find of that movie, but we have this big arse cannon that splits apart into multiple configurations. So we've got a bazooka front, we've got a three-barrel Vulcan cannon, and then we've got what appears to be just a stock in the back. And then we have this section that can fold out, and we could just start moving different bits around, and he can hold all of these components with no problems. Oh, and he can also take this barrel and put it on the bottom of one of his arms. Specifically to attach this to the bottom, it's one of these peg holes on that peg. And it could go on either forearm. I just am doing this one for the review. So, like that. And then with a little bit of part swapping and moving around, you could give him this nice bazooka, and the little handle pops out so he can hold it with the other hand, so he doesn't, hit himself in the face or something. Tough Trailer has quite a bit of posability. Head is on a ball joint. The shoulders are on a ball joint, though I am seeing a lot of things online stating that the shoulders pop off, and that does happen to me. Swivel just above the elbow, roughly almost 90-degree bend at the elbow, another swivel for the forearm, and then a swivel for the actual wrist. There is torso swivel, but it's very limited because, well, hood gut, that's why. So that means he can't kick forward that much at all, but he can kick back nearly 90 degrees, and on these nice ratchets can kick out a lot. Thigh swivel, bend at the knee, and then ball joint in the ankle, but it is, again, slightly limited just due to the chunk. I quite like this robot mode. I think it is a lot of fun. It's not perfect. I would love for maybe the hood bit to collapse a little bit so you could get some more posability with the legs pushing forward, but well. Now, the figure does come with a cage that doubles as a stand, but there are no directions on how to put that together, so yeah, I don't normally also put my fingers on stands, so here are some pictures on how that looks. So let's talk about some things that I actually don't particularly care for with Tough Trailer. The first of which is this backpack. I don't like the backpack. It just looks gaudy and bad, and I'm not sure how they would fix it, because I just think it looks bad. Two, the fact that the tummy here, which I've mentioned before, comes down too far and prevents any kind of movement forward for the hips. And then the hips themselves they're ratchets. They're good, but they're almost too tight, if that makes any sense. And lastly is the actual material that this figure is made out of. It feels weird. It has a very, very strange in-hand feel. And I don't know if that's because that this figure is actually made out of the nylon plastic. It kind of feels like it is. All of the blue plastic specifically feels really, really strange. It's really hard to describe because there's almost a texture and oiliness to it that feels real bad when you compare it to something from, say, like Hasbro or any of the other Machine Robo figures. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. So, folks, if you have this figure down in the comments, let me know, because I don't know what to make of it, because I'm kind of worried that this thing isn't going to stand the test of time. And here we have the truck mode, which works pretty well. It's a cool looking truck. If you were a humanoid, I have no idea how you would get in and out of this thing. You need like a super stepladder or something, but it works. It's a definitely non-Earth mode truck, and I like it. You can store all of the weapon on this figure in vehicle mode. The two barrels fit nicely underneath on these pegs, and then you can just slide the one cannon end in the opening back there and then attach it to the stock like that. Otherwise it's open and hollow. I don't know if this actually works with Earthrise Prime's trailer because, quite frankly, I cannot find my Earthrise Optimus Prime or his trailer. Ironically, it does kind of work with MP10 Prime's trailer, even if it does look a little bit small. It doesn't hook in, mind you, but in terms of scale, it kind of works. In terms of size, Tough Trailer's vehicle mode is pretty darn big. It is the equivalent of what used to be a leader class figure back in the day. Here it is with Siege Prime. Siege Prime is kind of dwarfed by Tough Trailer a little bit in terms of proportion, but I mean, this is an Earth-style, Earth-ish style over the cab, or over engine cab, where this is much more sci-fi. You've got your, I'm assuming the drive wheels are actually the front drive wheels here, and then you've got this giant rear end and this huge engine up front. It's definitely imposing, but it's actually not that much bigger than Siege Prime. Now, before we end the video review, I do want to talk about this transformation. I do not like this transformation. It is not fun. It is very annoying. Thankfully, the directions are pretty much easy to read, but there are a couple of spots, especially when dealing with the rear end of the vehicle mode, that leave me scratching my head going, wait, why was it designed this way? Simply because this rear quarter panel, this section here, and this section that the wheel actually pegs into get in the way of the transformation. And this is where the actual flexibility of the plastic actually helps the figure, because you kind of have to finagle things out of the way in order to get the arms correctly transformed and moved to the back under the hitch section here in the back. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the transformation. I'm a fan of the result, just not of the process of getting to it. Overall, Tough Trailer is pretty cool, but I am hesitant to recommend it to anybody other than hardcore giant robot fans. And the reason is simple. I'm not sure if this is that great of a figure. I pulled out a couple of the other figures, like Buggy Man, or Buggy Robo, Shuttle Robo, and I'm not doing a comparison here, since pictures of that already exist, and I'm short on time. But I like the figure, but it doesn't feel right. And I'm not sure that anyone is going to like this figure as much as I do, other than folks that are already fully bought into the line. The worst figure in this Machine Robo line is far and away Bike Robo, and it shares a bit of that DNA with that figure that I don't like. The plastic just doesn't feel right, flat out. It's just odd, and I'm having a lot of difficulty expressing or articulating what is exactly wrong with the plastic on this figure. But it doesn't feel right. In fact, it feels worse than... Now, the plastic that I keep going on and on about feels very similar to the white plastic that is on this guy. In fact, it also feels softer than this plastic, this white plastic that is universally reviled. So there is that. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to recommend it. I still like it. I purchased the figure at the Big Bad Toy Store. I still think it's an okay figure, but for the cost, I expected a little bit higher quality. So folks, let me know what you think of Tough Trailer down in the comments. Also, head down to the description of this video review, because not only do I have links to this figure, so you can pick it up at the Big Bad Toy Store if you feel like it, I've also got a link to Thu's video review of this guy from 2 years ago, 2017, 2018, maybe 2019, I don't remember. What is time? I've been in the basement for the last year, and I haven't really gone upstairs all that much. Anyway, let me know what you think of the figure down in the comment. Thank you so much for watching. I have been BaltMatrix. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and that bell thing, you know the deal. Thanks a lot. See you next time. Hello everybody, I'm BaltMatrix, and today we are taking a look at Studio Series 86, Grimlock. Now this is being recorded on Friday, May 21st, and I have had this figure for too long and have not reviewed it because, dang it, I'm stuck in the basement all day doing work, and I'm just not in the mood to review at the end of the day. But hey, today's Friday, so let's do it. Now, Fan First Friday was had today, and there's already another Dinobot announced, and that is Slag. Not Slug, Slag, and for some reason he comes with Daniel. This Dinobot comes with the orange abomination that is this little wheelie figure, and man, there's a lot wrong with this. We'll talk about him in a minute. Grimlock is packaged in robot mode, but I'm going to start off with Dino mode here because I think it is super good and me BaltMatrix like. Of all Grimlocks that we've gotten over the years, this is by far the most cartoon accurate to the original Generation 1 show that we've ever gotten, except for the Masterpiece figure. But it's not perfect. There are a few oddities, like this giant, well, not hole, but this flak section on the back with these rivets and hinges. Those definitely not accurate, but the coloring and the proportions and everything else of the figure is pretty much cartoon accurate, or as cartoon accurate as I think we're going to get at this size class. This is a leader class figure, and it feels like it, and it looks real good too. Posability in Dino mode is quite good. Head is on a swivel, but be careful because if you swivel it too much, his head has a tendency to pop off. I mean like that in the way he's supposed to transform. Head can move up and down, can look all the way up almost, and can look a little bit down. Mouth opens and closes quite well. I mean, that's a 45-degree mouth opening there. It works. It works really well. The only thing I don't like is the giant screw holes that are sticking off the sides of his face.
Continuing with the rest opposability of the figure, there is a ball joint in the shoulder. These do have a tendency to pop out every now and then. There is a hinge joint in the arm, and you can get a good bit of reach ability with these little stubby arms. I kind of wish the arm was articulated. I'm sorry, the hand. I kind of wish the claws were articulated, but I can understand why they're not. Probably a third-party company at some point is going to make some kind of better hands. These white plastic bits that are the front arms are that white nylon plastic, and there has been some breakage that I've seen from other folks. Legs are nice and ratchety and can split all the way out, which is really weird to see on a dinosaur. Then swivel, bend at the knees that only bend forward because, hey, they're the robot arms. Tail doesn't really move at all, which is unfortunate, but I'll live. On the back of the neck are these little detail bits right here. Those are where Wheelie's inner lower legs peg into, and then there are pegs on the bottom where the bottom of his, or the back of his heels peg into. It doesn't work all that well. It really doesn't, and I end up just kind of futzing with it and just barely getting him onto the figure, just enough so that I can make a joke of saying, "Friend find right behind," and then doing this. I suppose we should talk about Wheelie, and there are some problems. All right, let's talk about Wheelie. I don't particularly like this little figure. All of his limbs are super empty inside, just like his soul. He does have some decent posability, though. Ball joint in the shoulders, swivel at the head, that really is actually a ball joint, swivel at the torso, ball joint of the hip. But then his legs are stuck in these bent... It's just stuck. You can't pose them. So he can kind of sit here and squat like he's going to take a poo, or squat and shoot his slingshot, but he has a tendency to fall over more often than not. And I just keep trying to pose him in ways that look cool, and he always winds up on his metal keister. Now, I am aware that there are some third-party, or I don't want to even say third-party. Would they be third-party at this point? There are some creations out there on Shapeways and other places that made new legs that you can order and then paint up yourself. I'm tempted to send this off to Grimlockamus and get him to paint it for me, because I can't paint worth a darn. It would also be nice if there was an extra swivel so he could actually turn his arm such that it looks like he's actually going to shoot the slingshot, as opposed to just, I guess, do this, which I guess works? You didn't buy this set for Wheelie. Though I do appreciate the addition and thought that was put into it. Because, I mean, this appeared in one scene in the movie, and it's probably Wheelie's most iconic scene ever. Alright, Grimlock's transformation. Pretty darn easy. To start with, come down to the tail, grab the sections, and just kind of wiggle them apart. They do come apart pretty easily. Come underneath the tail and pop open the tail bits like that. And then we can fold the white tail tips into the inside of those bits. Fold the entire tail section out, and then snap them into place to form the legs. Come down to the bottom of the legs and close the bottom portion of the tail to form the back of the legs. And you want to do that first, because then we can flip the feet up, and there are these little notches that are cut out of the bottom of the feet that allow the connector bits for the tails to sit there nicely. Straighten out the legs, and stand up the utter monstrosity that you have created. Come to the front of the Dino mode and split it open, lifting them up a little bit and out of the way, and then split them across the back to form the wings of the robot mode. Grab the dinosaur head and flip it around to the back and peg it into place. Flip up Grimlock's head, or noodle, and grab the entire chest section and rotate it up and snap it into place, and fold out the fists. If you are a fan of the original Grimlock, this is the perfect figure next to the Masterpiece figure. We haven't gotten anything this good before, other than that original Masterpiece figure, which is over 10 years old at this point.
This thing is, it's beautiful. It is utterly beautiful. It is chunky in the right ways. It is accurate to that original toy and original character design in the right ways. And it's superposable and nice. And it comes with a gigantic gun that I just dropped. I love this figure. I absolutely love this figure. But if you're not a G1 fan, or maybe you're younger and you haven't even watched G1 and you don't have that kind of reverence, it might be lost on you. Now, even though I love this figure, there are a few things that I could see that would improve it. Grimlock's head, while absolutely brilliant, could use some light piping. There's no light piping here. I love this blue visor, but I really would have liked just a little bit of light piping. The dino wings on the back feel a little flimsy. It's specifically these nylon plastic white pieces. I'm not sure what I can do about that. I'm not even sure I can fix it. The chest piece is painted beautifully, except the back. I mean, if you push the chest piece a little bit, you could see the white here. And no, it's not the most critical thing in the world, but it is noticeable. It's just odd that they didn't paint that part. I would have loved if they spent the extra little bit of money to give us a flap that we could open, turn the fist in, and then close up again. It almost feels like it was originally designed with that in mind, but obviously it's missing, and these giant gaps are a real eyesore. Lastly is the lack of accessories. He could have used a giant red sword. That's it. That's the only other thing I wish it had. But don't worry, I'm sure third parties or fans out there who have 3D printers, maybe non-NEF or some of the other companies, are going to make a sword. Heck, I think there are already like 2 of them already. I just haven't bought any yet. Posability for Grimlock is excellent. Head is on a big old ball joint. Shoulders are the same as the dino legs. Nice and ratchety and clicky with tons of articulation. Bending, twisting, turning, everything. 80s goodness that we never had in the 80s. Torso swivel. Legs can kick forward and kick it back on nice little ratchets and can kick out 90 degrees. Then there is a 90-degree bend at the knee, and these feet, oh boy, these feet are good. Look at that. Man, look at that split action going. He's making Siege Prime blush. Now, even though Grimlock is a leader class figure, he's still shorter than MP10 Prime. But thankfully, Grimlock does tower over Prime from, well, Earthrise and Siege. And I think this is actually the scale that shows up in the show. I think Grimlock is like 2 or 3 heads taller than Prime. Could be wrong on that, though. Now, before we end this video review, do need to show you the compatibility with Wheelie in robot mode. There are peg holes on the very tops of his shoulders where Wheelie could sit, and Wheelie has a peg on the underside of his left thigh. So, Grimlock has shoulder sniping Wheelie action. Or would that be Wheelie sniping shoulder action? Or would it be Wheelie shoulder sniping action? Wheelie shoulder sniping action. Okay, yeah, I think that last one is the best one. Overall, Grimlock is great. Flat out, Grimlock is great. Even if you're not a Generation 1 fan, this figure is a ton of fun and definitely worth having in your collection. I'm just really happy with it, and it's probably one of my favorite figures from the Studio Series 86 line. So folks, let me know what you think of Grimmy down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and be sure to hit the bell for notifications. As always, I am BaltMatrix, and I'll catch you next time. Hello everybody, I am BaltMatrix, and today we're going to be taking a look at something that's just a little bit evil. We are taking a look at Magic Square Overlord, otherwise known as MS-B11 Overlord, aka Legends Class Motormaster. This is the 3rd figure in the Stunticon set from Magic Square, and yeah, it's neat. It's very neat. Size comparison-wise, here is the other 2 Legends class Stunticons. We've got Overlord, and then, oh crud, I can't remember the name of these 2. Beatback and Collide. And yeah, they're tiny. I mean, they're Legends class figures, but they are very, very cool. For that Legends class scale that I've been talking about, here is Kingdom Core class Optimus Prime compared to the others. And this Optimus Prime is even smaller than a Legends class figure or a recent Legends class figure. So you could get an idea of the scale we're talking about here, especially in vehicle mode. Now, a lot of the third-party Motormasters that have come out have the cab being Motormaster, and then the entire trailer being the skeleton for the combined mode. That's the same thing we've got here. Motormaster or Overlord is this little cab. I mean, the hands are right there, for crying out loud. And then that whole thing transforms into a skeleton of Menasor. And let me tell you, this thing, its transformation is insane at this scale. This guy's transformation is really cool. I mean, really, really cool. So let's go ahead and get into it. For the transformation, we're going to start out by coming to the very back of the figure and unpegging the rear wheels and just pull them off to the side. Grab the fists, fold them all the way out, and then we want to actually take the hands and fold them all the way out. Then there are these little panels that we flip inside to fill in the forearms. And then the arms are pretty much complete, except we've got to, get them out of the way so we can make room for the rest of the figure. So to start that process, grab the top of the vehicle mode and pull it away from the front. Then grab the little fuel tanks on the side and pull them away from the figure like this and fold them out. Grab the entire front of the figure and fold it down and out, and then what was the back of the cab will flip up and peg into the top of the cab. Split the front of the cab open, and this is incredibly cool. Take the feet, or take the front bumper and flip it out to the side. Come to the front grille, turn that 180 degrees around. Then there's this other grille section that folds out and folds over the bumper, and then the whole thing folds down like this. And then you can take the section that we opened up before, flip the fuel can around, and this whole section will peg into place as the back of the leg. You actually didn't gain any height, but you gained some toes, effectively, and it really makes a convincing transformation when all you're really doing is flipping out one piece and flipping around a panel. And you end up with just a really cool looking G1 styled foot. It's really smart the way they did this. Now the torso is a little bit kind of weird. To start off with, take the crotch plate and fold it down. Grab what was the top of the cab and spin it around 180 degrees between what is the back of the cab and the legs. Then there are these tiny little pegs that fold in, and this is what the actual fuel tanks pegged into earlier. So you want to fold them down and then push the torso down into place. Fold the wheels out, and these little flaps that were on the back of the bed, fold them in to where the wheel is, and then this whole wheel section will collapse. So flip that in, fold the wheel in, and just leave that there for right now. Grab the arms and unpeg them, and then flip them around to the front of the robot mode, come around to the back, flip up the head all the way, and then we can turn those wheels 180 and fold them in to fill in the chest and the backpack. Fold the head down, turn it around, take the back, fold it up, collapse it, and peg it into the back of those wheels. Believe it or not, this is the hardest part of the transformation, because in order to get these wheels to peg in correctly, you kind of have to hold them with your fingers and then just pray that things line up and that you don't curse yourself out of a YouTube video monetization. Then when everything's connected up, fold the shoulders in. Unfortunately, they don't peg into place. Fold the arms down and straighten them out, and we're done. The robot mode that we end up with is absolutely fantastic. I love the way this thing looks. And some folks on Twitter said the same thing, but others said that it's really a shame that Magic Square is being kind of slavishly addicted to G1. And I get the sentiment. I really understand the sentiment. What I don't like, however, is the cat. Hopper, come on, dude. Can you please get out of my picture? Now I will be the first one to tell you that their sticking with G1 is getting a little old, but I think that's kind of the point, and at this size scale, or size, I don't mind. This Overlord figure, aka Motormaster, is fantastic. I mean, it's everything from a Motormaster figure that I have ever wanted. I do wish it was just a smidge bigger. I get the whole Legend size class, but for the price, I really would like it to be bigger. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm far from it. I love this thing, but man, I really would like it to be just a smidge bigger. The figure comes with 2 accessories, the first of which is a really big gun, and the second of which is a really big sword, or at least compared to the rest of the figure. And for posability, wow, this thing is good. It's so good. He's got so many joints and swivels and pivots, and it just works really well, and you can get some absolutely wonderfully dynamic poses out of this thing. And because my good buddy Vangelis requires it, the figure can totally do ab crunch crotch thrust. Crotch thrusting aside, or ab crunching aside, one of those, you can see here that Core Class Prime is so much smaller than Overlord in robot mode. I mean, we're talking heads smaller. And you might be wondering, well, what about other Legends class figures? Well, here is a Legends class Beachcomber. Still a lot smaller than this. But it's much smaller than a current Deluxe class figure, so it sits somewhere between a Core class or Old Legends class and current Deluxe. I really wish I had like a Beast Machines Legends class figure here, because I have the sneaky suspicion that a Beast Machines Legends class figure would be just a smidge bigger than this guy. And for those wondering, here is Overlord compared with the other, or one of the other 2. I just didn't feel like transforming the other one, because we're going to be getting into the combined mode here in a second, and there's enough transforming going on. Anyway, he's easily a head bigger. Now, you may be wondering, how's Prime stack up? Well, Core Class Prime is still shorter than the Legends class figure of Lockdown. Jeez. Oh, I can never remember the name of these other 2. Collide, yes. Breakdowns, a third-party figure. Yeah, this is a good size class. Again, wish they were a little bigger, but that's just me being old and finicky. So, at the end of the day, I think this is a great little figure. I really do. I am just super happy with it. I think it is wonderful. It's pricey. It's pricey. There's nothing I can do about that except, pay the surcharge to get the figure. So, even though I love this figure a lot, let's get into the trailer, because that's what we're all coming here for, is the combined mode. And hold on to your butts, because this is a bit much. If you're familiar with DX9, Fan Toys, and is it Ocular Max? Is that the other one? I think so. This is a lot more complicated than it looks. To give you an idea, gonna stand it up. Hello, Menasor Head. If you hadn't guessed by now, this whole trailer unfolds and becomes the skeletal structure for the third-party Menasor. And there are a lot of options with that, which I'll talk about once we get into the skeleton, but just for your own information, this can be kind of divided up into 3 sections. From the midpoint, this seam right here, back, this whole section back here and under here become the legs and the feet. This midsection, where this panel is, right here, where the width of my 2 fingers, this becomes the hips. And then everything past this panel to the front of the cat, or front of the trailer, becomes the arms, chest, and head. So yeah, let's get unfolding. Now, all we've done are the legs, and that is the back half of the trailer mode. And that is how big that back half is. We've effectively added an entire deluxe class figure. Roughly I would say 3/4 of a deluxe class figure, because the very back of that trailer is the bottom of the knee. Like, the very back of the trailer mode is the bottom of these knees. So, okay, maybe actually a better comparison would be, a Legends class figure that I just dropped. Yeah, we've added we've added an entire beachcomber onto the bottom of that thing. Oop. And this, my friends, is the skeleton of Menasor from Magic Square. I mean, we practically have the combiner here, all done by itself. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because it allows the figures to be unique and different and their own. And the size, comparatively, is just, it's huge compared to the individual figures. Now, I realize that a lot of you out there aren't going to like this. I completely understand, because effectively it's, two of the vehicle modes slap onto the back of the legs, two of the vehicle modes slap onto the arms, and then the third or the fifth vehicle mode goes into this cavity in the chest. Yeah, I feel you. I honestly do. But I'm okay with this. And the reason I'm okay with this is because I don't know how else they would be able to pull this off. Yeah, we've got the Combiner Wars. That's one way to pull it off, but it's not exactly accurate to the figures that we all remember, or the characters that we all remember, where this more or less is. Now, something that they're doing here that's very interesting, at least to me, is there are multiple modes that we can go with this Menasor. Like 4 of them. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, hey, this giant skeleton is a fully transforming skeleton that turns into a trailer for the leader of the pack. And posability is pretty darn good. Head is on a series of ball joints and hinges. You got movement here in the arms, plenty of movement, elbows, swivels, fists. Heck, the hands are incredibly well articulated. Each finger is individually articulated, and then the thumb is articulated with an actual extra joint there at the top of the thumb. Hip swivel, ab crunch, legs forward and back, all the stuff moves out of the way. Swivel, over 90-degree bend at the knee, foot articulation for days. I honestly don't know how else they would be able to pull off such a dynamic figure if they didn't go this route. And that's the same for all the other third-party Stunticons. I honestly don't know how they would do it without it being an utter mess. Mini Menasor comes with 2 giant accessories. 1, a giant purple gun. And 2, a giant sword that is bigger than a deluxe class figure. This is really cool. There is something to be said about being able to mirror the poses between the leader and the combiner. Now to get Mini Motor Master here to actually combine with that, we have to pseudo return him to vehicle mode. And that's not hard to do. The transformation for this little dude, as I said, is fun. It's not hard. Once you get the hang of it, it's very easy. You can transform him in just a matter of minutes. And I like it. I like it a lot. So we'll go ahead and... Oh, there we go. Almost transformed it back. So what we do is unpeg that section, or the top of the cab mode, flip it around 180, fold the entire back up like this, and then put the cab top flush with the wind scoop, and that's it. And then we just shove it in to the back of the combine mode, that is. So just slide it in place, lift up the head. There are tabs at the bottom of the front collar that are supposed to peg in right there at the top of the cab. I have found that it doesn't always work, but you should be able to get it in, and it sits quite nicely as a nice little backpack. Yeah, that works. I'm not gonna lie, just having the two cars down on the back of the legs is dumb. It is. It's dumb. But one thing that is cool is you can grab the feet, extend them, turn the entire leg around, and make sure that the wheel or the cars don't fall off. And then just kind of put the feet down, and you can have the cars up front if you want. Whoop, whoop. Little top heavy there, boy. Now, something that I have not mentioned yet is that this figure comes with a whole bunch of extra kibbles and bits. And those kibbles and bits are shoulders and a chest. Well, kibble and bit 1, a new chest. Kibble and bit 2, a new crotch plate. Kibble and bit 3, a new head and face. See? Like that. And the original set that were the leg bots, or the feet bots, came with a new set of feet. So, you can, in theory, create and mix and match different components. Like here on the directions. New head, new shoulders, which come with the arms, new crotch plate, new thighs. Oh, right, these guys come with new thighs and new toes. I forgot about that. And yeah, the new toes thing. This stupid thing has a tendency to drop toes. Its toes fall off. So you can end up with a much more G1 animation style of a figure. Now, one other thing I want to really show you folks is the other arms, the arm modes. There are actually a couple of different versions of the arm modes. The first version of which is you split the arm guys apart, and one arm goes on, or one top of the arm and then the bottom of the arm. So that's this section up here. And then you can also add these extra panels in and put the cars to the top of the shoulders. So you end up with arm mode number 2, which is my least favorite. And then you can do something where you're literally just taking the entire arm section, or the entire arm component, and just attaching the fists. So you get arm section number 3, which in terms of looks is probably my favorite, but we'll have to see depending on when all the arms come in. It's nice to have options. It's really nice to have options. Oh, and if you're wondering, that is what the figure looks like with the cars at the front. I have a tendency to, when I turn them around, have the cars fall off. It's just me being, not really safe with it. Oh, here, I'll do it. The Knot, or what is the name? Collide, whatever the Knot breakdown figure is, doesn't have a tendency to hold on to the figure really well or hold on to the connectors really well. That's just me not being able to line up the holes quite right. And before we end this video review, I would be remiss if I didn't show you the size that the full Menasor is going to be coming in at. It's bigger than MP10 Prime. Overall, I am very happy with the purchase of these two sets. They're not cheap. That's not the point, though. They are as close to G1 accurate as I want to get, in a size class that I think works, for a price that's mostly reasonable. Mostly. I mean, we are talking third-party prices here. Now, I picked up both of these sets over at the Chosen Prime. They are still in stock, so head on down to the description of this video, and that'll shoot you over to the Chosen Prime so you could purchase them for yourself. I haven't seen these sets, or this set, show up at the Big Bad Toy Store yet, which I find a little odd, but oh well, if I do, I'll throw that in the description as well. So folks, let me know what you think of this set down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I have been BaltMatrix, and I'll catch you all next time.